Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Today we're going to take a look at the Sprog 3 DCC command system, and we'll also do a quick overview of the other Sprog products that are available that are similar to this one. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started, I also wanted to announce that the winner of this week's decoder is Ronald Rondo, or Rondu. Hopefully I got that pronounced right. And as soon as I hear back from him, I'll get that decoder in the mail to him. So let's go ahead and talk about the Sprog DCC system. Sprog has been around for a number of years. I picked up this one from them back around 2015, I believe. I know it's been around since at least 2012, because that's the date on the manual itself that came with this. So they've been around about at least 10 years, maybe a bit longer than that. And initially, I picked this up because these are such great programmers. They did a great job with programming index CV decoders, and just about any decoder you would throw at it, it could easily program. But one feature that I had never used until recently was the command station capability, because these can be either used as a standalone programmer, service mode programmer, to program decoders in your locomotives, or they can be used to actually power a small layout. This particular one here is rated at 2.5 amps. They have a smaller version, the Sprog 2, that's rated at about 1 amp. And it makes a great little programmer in its own. In addition to that, they have one that's even smaller called the Nano, and they have a newer version out that can be paired with a Raspberry Pi microcomputer, and that Raspberry Pi version can actually be used as a standalone device without the use of a computer. And that's one of the things about the Sprog devices. They work in combination with Decoder Pro on either a Macintosh computer or a Windows computer. So there's a number of different options for how these can be employed. Now, the interesting thing about these is they don't have a throttle with them. This is all they have. They produce these little boxes right here with the command station hardware all built into it. And the Sprog 2 looks very similar to this. The Nano is much smaller, as is the Raspberry Pi version. Unfortunately, the Raspberry Pi version is not readily available right now because nobody can get a Raspberry Pi because of the component shortage. So right now, everybody's just kind of waiting for those to go into production again. But at any rate, the great thing about these, they do offer a booster. It also comes in a little off-white box like this, and it's rated at 2.5 amps. So the booster can be used with the Sprog 2, the Sprog 3, the Nano, and you can use these in combination with their small booster to operate slightly larger model railroads. Now, these probably are not something that are going to be used with anything other than small switching layouts, small in-scale layouts, home layouts, something like that, because they're only rated at this one at 2.5 amps, and the boosters are only rated at 2.5 amps. So you're not going to be operating that many locomotives. However, they're not designed for that, in my opinion. They basically are designed for operating small switching layouts, small model railroads that, you're not going to be running more than 3 or 4 locomotives at a time, if that many. So let's zoom in down here and I'll show you how these go together, and we'll talk a little bit more about how they operate. Before we go on, I want to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It's simple, easy, and free. All you have to do is hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. So this is the basic Sprog 3 USB command station. And it can be used, as I said, either as a standalone programmer, and it's a highly reliable programmer, or it can be used as a command station to operate model railroads. So it's designed basically for small model railroads, small switching layouts, your small home layout, maybe a 4x8 foot, something like that, where you're only going to be operating a few trains. And the reason for that, first off, is because it's only rated at about 2.5 amps. The power supply for it that I got is 14 volts, rated at 3 amps. I believe now they sell one that's 15 volts at 3 amps. And the output is limited to 2.5 amps. So you're talking about running, what, maybe 5, 6, 7 locomotives at the same time before this becomes overpowered. Now, as I said, you can use one of their boosters, and they do sell their little boosters. Any other booster that you use with this has to be opto-isolated. So be aware of that, and you'll need to get special instructions from Sprog on how to hook those up. But like I said, you can use their boosters. I think they call it an S-boost, and it's rated at 2.5 amps, just like the Sprog 3. And as I said, the Sprog 2 looks just like this. It's just rated at 1 amp. So it's comparable in size and function, but it has a smaller amperage output. The thing about these is they do require that you use Decoder Pro to operate with them. And the reason for that is they use the Y throttle feature in Decoder Pro to be able to communicate with wireless Wi-Fi throttles. And that's what you use with these. You can use an iPhone, an iPad, an Android device, all running the Y throttle or the engine driver apps to be able to control your trains. As I'll show you in a minute, you can use the TCS UWT-100 or UWT-50 Wi-Fi throttles. You can use any Wi-Fi throttle that can communicate with Decoder Pro through a wireless router. So that's all you have to have. And I will provide a link above me here to a video that I did on how to use wireless Wi-Fi throttles with your DCC system, so you can take a look at that. I'll also include a link to a video I did on how to set up the preferences in Decoder Pro. So it's pretty straightforward, easy to set up and get running. Just follow the instructions. And the instruction manual that comes with this is very excellent. It goes into the use of Decoder Pro in considerable depth. Let me go ahead and power this one up. So like a lot of the newer DCC equipment, they have these little plug-in terminal blocks, and you just plug that in and you can see the lights have lit up. So we have power to the device, and we also have the USB power indicator is on. So that's all it is, all that's required. Now, you bring in your wires here, and it tells you plus is here, minus is here, so you have to know that red is positive, black is negative on your power supply. So you can see that here on mine. I've got the wires going into the proper locations. And then I've got 2 wires coming out with a couple of clip leads that I use for attachments to my programming track. And I will use these clip leads to attach this to the DCC power bus on the module when we get ready to do a demo of how it works. Now, we got power going in, power coming out, going out to the truck through these connections here. And they're labeled TR A and B, track A and track B. What about the connection to your computer? Well, that requires one of these USB type cables. So you've got this roughly square piece that goes in here, and that would plug in here. And then this goes to the USB, standard USB connection on your computer so that you can communicate with Decoder Pro. So that's all there is to it, to set it up. Plug it in, plug the module in, make sure you got your wires correct. It is protected against reverse wiring. So if you get these wires reversed, it won't blow the electronics in here. However, it won't work. So if you hook it up and it doesn't work, check your wires, make sure that you've got those correct. So that's one thing you have to be aware of. If it doesn't work, it's probably because you've got it wired backwards. So make sure you check that. Once you get this hooked up to your computer through the USB cable and start up Decoder Pro, get it connected to your wireless router. And I showed in that video, as I mentioned, how you can set up the wireless connection through Decoder Pro through your computer and get the Y throttle app functioning. So take a look at those before you try to do this. And it's also explained in considerable depth in the manual that comes with this. So there's not a lot of connections to be made, not a lot of hassle to worry about. And for those of you that just want to be able to run trains without purchasing a lot of equipment, this is one way to do it, because you can purchase this for, I think, under $150 in the US. And I know that, it's available. You can purchase these directly from Sprog. Just look up Sprog in your browser, and you can go to their website, look at all of the different versions of the Sprog available, and see what they sell. Also, I know that Streamline Backshop sells Sprog command stations, and they have a few in stock. I checked that yesterday. So that's a quick way to take a look at it, see what's available, see what they cost, and see if it's going to fit what you require on your model railroad. And again, you can use these with your cell phone or your iPad, your Android device, whatever, using the Engine Driver app or the Y-Throttle app in coordination with that capability in Decoder Pro. So it's very straightforward. You don't have to invest in a separate throttle. You can purchase one of the TCS Wi-Fi throttles, the UWT-50 or the UWT-100, and you'll be able to use those with this device to control trains on your model railroad. That's about all I can think of to go over here with you. It's that simple a system to work with. So what I'm going to do now is take you over to my Windows computer. I'll show you how to set up the preferences for the Sprog device on my Windows computer in Decoder Pro. And then after we get everything set up in Windows in Decoder Pro, we'll move over to the layout, and I'll show you how easy it is to operate a train on the model railroad, how good of control you get with the Sprog device, because it does provide very good DCC power for a small model railroad. So let's go ahead over and take a look at that. Let's take a quick look at how you set up the Sprog 3 device with Decoder Pro, because you have to have that functioning in order to use it. So if you look here first, though, I'm going to show you that I've got my Y-Throttle window open in the upper left-hand corner, and you can see that we've got the TCS UT100 throttle attached to it. There's a number of different Wi-Fi throttles available that can be used with the Sprog. Let's go ahead then and take a look at how do you set up the preferences for the Sprog. Let's open it up and go down here to Edit and Preferences. Okay, so you can see it's opened up. This is the menu window for setting up all of the settings for using the Sprog. Now you can see it's set up as a Sprog DCC. Coming down here, I've got it set up right now as a Sprog command station. You have the Nano, the Pi Sprog, the one, all of these are covered here. There's a Sprog simulator so that you can actually play with Decoder Pro using the simulator even if you don't have a Sprog device attached. And up here, under Sprog, you would click on this one if you wanted to use it as a programmer. And that would allow you to use the programming track. When you've got it set up as a command station, you can only use it as the command station. You can't use it for service mode programming. You can use it for programming on the main as you would with any other DCC system. So this is one of those situations where you can either use the Sprog to operate your model railroad, or you can use it as a standalone programmer, but not both at the same time. Okay, so I've got everything set up. I've got it set up for Sprog DCC. I've got it set up as a command station. I have it set for serial port COM6. I know that that's what it's attached to. And I showed in the past how to go into Windows and determine which COM port it is attached to. And the Sprog command station is the connection name down here. That comes up when you make the change. And then you would just go down here and save it. I'm not going to do that because it's already saved and ready to operate. So let me close that now. And I'm going to say I'm not going to change anything because I didn't make any changes. So now you can see my roster is here, and all I have to do now is begin using the throttle, and the commands will be sent through the Sprog 3 to the layout and be able to operate trains. So that's how you set it up. Very easy, straightforward to do. And again, I've got videos on the channel on how to set up Y-throttles, Wi-Fi throttles to be used with Decoder Pro. And as I pointed out in the video on using Wi-Fi throttles, you have to have Decoder Pro, your Windows computer or your Apple computer, connected to a wireless router so that your Wi-Fi throttles have a way to connect to Decoder Pro. So you would leave Decoder Pro running just like this, and with the Wi-Fi throttle, whichever one you're using, connected to Decoder Pro through your wireless router. And you can use your home router, or you can use one that you pick up secondhand somewhere. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to move all of this, the computer and the Sprog and everything else, over to the layout, get that set up and running. So I've moved everything over here next to the module that I'm going to use for the demonstration. Got the computer set up and running. The Y-throttle app is running in the Decoder Pro. So I'm going to be able to control the locomotive using the UWT100 Wi-Fi throttle from TCS. So everything I'm going to be using today, I've pretty much gone over, except for the actual use of the Sprog 3 DCC command station. So what I want to do now, I'm going to move over here to the layout itself, and I'll give you a demonstration of operation of a locomotive using Decoder Pro, the Sprog 3, and the Wi-Fi throttle from TCS. Okay, I've just cranked up locomotive 2220 here. It has sound installed in it, so we'll give a listen to the sound and see how it runs here on a Sprog 3. So we've got good sound. I'm going to turn that sound off. So we have very good sound and very good slow, well-controlled operation using the Sprog 3 with this particular locomotive. This is one of the Atlas S2 locomotives. I believe that this has a Loc sound decoder in it. It sounds like a Loc sound off the top of my head. I can't remember, though, exactly what I installed in it. So there we go. Turn the engine on, crank it up, and head out the track. So everything is working fine, just as if I was operating this on my Digitrax layout or using it with the Power Cab or any of the other DCC systems that I have stashed around here. So this is a great little option for those of you who might have a very small layout, who want to be able to get up and running fairly inexpensively. I think the price is only about $150 right now. Check out the cost on sites like the Sprog site itself, as well as from Streamline Backshop. And there are probably other dealers out there that have these available for purchase as well. Well, that's a wrap for today's video on the Sprog DCC command station. So go ahead, go over to the Sprog website. I think that's sprog.usa.com or sprog.com, one or the other. Take a look at what they offer, see how well that would fit into your needs, and give some consideration to using one of these Sprog DCC systems on your small model railroad. So have a great weekend and a great week, and we'll see you here next week with another video from the DCC Guy. Bye now.